5:56, we'll reconvene the meeting. I'd like to recognize everybody that's in the audience this evening. Moving to school board norms. Aaron, would you like to read those since you're in front of you?
Yes, sir. The board developed norms are to share and respect varied opinions and speak with a united voice once a decision has been reached, to prudently prioritize resources in a student-centric manner that aligns with the district's strategic plan, to exhibit a mindset of continuous improvement through adequate preparation for meetings and a commitment to board education, and to commit to assessing board effectiveness to ensure high-quality governance for the staff, students, and community of Jamestown.
Thank you, Aaron. Moving on to public communications, we have none. Any conflicts of interest to declare? Hearing none, moving to consent agenda. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Greg,
Second.
seconded by Diane. Any discussion? Hearing none, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving into our regular meeting, we have our athletic recognition. And when your name is called, if you want to come forward to the corner, I'll meet you there. And Heidi, you want to start?
Sure. I'd like to start by saying that all varsity winter teams qualified for the North Dakota High School Activities Team Scholar Award, which means they have to have a 3.2 or better team GPA. So congratulations to start off with for all the teams. We'll start with, and I'll just read down the whole list and you can just meet President Count over there. Boys basketball, Carson Lamb for all conference and all state. Brooks Carroll, recognized for all conference. Girls basketball, Grace Hagerly, all conference, all state. Antoinette Navi, all conference. Ella Falk, all conference. Boys hockey, Jace Thompson, all conference. Nolan Nenow, all conference. Hunter Nelson, all conference. Connor McLaughlin, all conference. And co-region coach of the year, Matt Thacker. Moving on to girls hockey. Ella Rolson is all conference, all state, and WDA outstanding senior athlete. Alexis Kirkeby, all conference. Gymnastics, Rachel Shealy, all conference, all state, WDA, and state outstanding senior athlete. Haley Nelson, all conference, all state, and state runner-up for floor competition. Emma Hillerud, all conference and all state. Brenna Hatch, all conference. Julia Scarry, all conference and all state. And Dave Tooze, WDA and state coach of the year. Boys swim and dive. Noah Hagelin, all conference and all state. And Garrett Wright, all conference. Wrestling, Grady Anderson, state runner-up at 120 pounds. Aiden Braun, state runner-up, 126 pounds. Dance, small team hip-hop category runner-up. The team members were Hannah Murchie, Adele Kennison, Maya Henderson, Aaliyah Allen, Emily Amick, Matea Lunsman, Harley Fields, and Chloe Stollinger. I'd also like to recognize Megan Ford for being recognized as the 2021 North Dakota Gatorade Player of the Year in girls cross country for the 3rd year. Congratulations to all of our winter activities recognitions tonight.
Congratulations.
guys want to stay for the meeting, you can. If not, you can just sign and, you know.
Mass exodus.
It happens every day. 25 years I've never seen him stay.
Yeah.
We're timed up. Okay, moving on, we have nothing under correspondence. Reports, is student council here? Who is gonna? Student council report?
I don't think so.
Yep, okay.
Here?
Hi, my name is Kit Ganshot. I am the Executive Board Vice President here at the high school. I'm here today instead of Lauren Hibble, who wasn't able to make it. So we just recently did the blood drive. We did that on April 7th. We had over 30 people, but we were only able to collect about 20 units or so of blood. A little under our goal, but it was still pretty good. We will be having our convention this weekend, April 25th and 26th. It's switched to a 2-day this year. It got canceled this last winter, so we're super excited to be able to go, and we'll be having Olivia Shriak, one of our junior representatives. She'll be running for the state board. We just had our executive board ballots, so we have the executive board elections. We already had that, so we have all that taken care of. And then our general elections for each class will be held on. Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
Yes, the convention, is it going to be face-to-face, and is it going to be in Bismarck?
Yeah, I'll be at Bismarck, and yeah,
Face-to-face?
yeah, it'll be face to face. I don't know what the capacity is, how many schools are actually able to attend or not. But yeah, it'll be face to face, masks will be required. Any other questions?
None? Okay, thanks for the report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to number 2, we have the National School Board Virtual Convention Report. So as we're members, board members who have attended the convention, have any feedback or just a generalization of what some of the seminars they attended, or anybody want to go first? I'll go first. I'll start it off.
Good answer.
I did view a couple of the mental health ones that were on there, and they were good ones to do. As far as catching things with kids before things get kind of totally out of hand. Watched some on board governance, the difference. That school boards do make a difference in the achievement and stuff of the kids in the school. The one that I really liked was the seminar put on by Christian Moore on resilience, how you can come from here up to here, and through a person's lifetime, you always have the ups and downs. It's the resilience to get back up into a positive state. And then also the speakers are all good, so. Anybody else? Aaron?
Yeah, I attended about 5 different sessions, just focusing primarily on the board relations, board superintendent relation, effective board, governance, and those kind of things. That was kind of my primary area of interest on that. And in some cases, there was a lot of words said and not much said at all. In other cases, there were some good points, though. So just kind of had to weed through there, but just trying to look here. And then I did attend a budget one as well, and I thought there's a lot of good points in there. It's kind of helped me understand the process a little bit better. So yeah, that's what I had.
Okay. Jason?
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank
I mean, the amount of information presented and in the format must have been a logistical nightmare for the National School Board, so thank them for carrying on with the conference virtually. My overall, it really was amazing, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but at the forefront this time around was definitely social justice, cultural diversity. That was a very big theme throughout a lot of the sessions and a lot of the main general speakers, and some of the main speakers also. I attended about 5 or 6, and just to highlight a few of them, I really appreciated the one that was about whole child, whole adult, and social emotional learning along with mindfulness, which is basically an approach it's an approach of social emotional learning, but it's also taking in the mindfulness approach of being just aware of where you're at, your surroundings, and being able to be in the moment and be responsible there. I attended kind of a self-analysis school board presentation, and that presenter went through 10 performance markers, kind of to gauge where we're at as a board. And we were doing pretty good on a lot of them, so that's good news. The last one, inclusive leadership, was one that I went through, and that was a lot of attention too on cultural diversity, though with more emphasis being placed on gender equity, on those types of issues also. And then I have to mention the Saturday main session, the happiness advantage. And I guess the reason I really appreciated this presentation was because the presenter, Sean Aker, he asked the questions, what if we studied the weirdos? And I'm like, what do you mean, what if he studied the weirdos? And he was a happiness and, I forget exactly what his title is, but his thought process was, in our society, we're so used to collecting data scientifically, figuring out where the average is, and we go from there. And so the outliers on both ends of the spectrums are kind of forgotten, or just left out because we tend to focus on where the averages are. And so that's what he meant by, those outliers. He started studying some of those outliers because he said he was one of them, and he said if we're attending this conference virtually, we're one of those also. So, not saying we were weirdos, but. So his concept is all about happiness advantage, and that really just struck a chord with me. And one kind of aha thing there that I've tried to take with me from this conference is, he said in his research that if we see a challenge in front of us, whatever it is, you can take COVID for example, those challenges, and he referred to them as hills, those challenges appear to be 20 to 30% bigger if we face them alone. So his whole concept was, our hills can be either physical, social, emotional hills, but I mean, it seems like an old concept, but it just kind of really struck me that we are still always better together, so.
Anybody else that? None? Or Gail?
For that time, do you know, is it possible for me to access some of those?
Oh, yeah.
I think for another week or so, right?
Yep.
I think 90 days.
Oh, 90 days?
And I didn't have you pay for me because I knew I had the conflict, but can I just do it as a observer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good, because
No, you have to be signed up, and then you have to have a code to get into
Yeah, and I
every
just-
day that you get an email saying you have a code. Heidi?
I just want to add, if you have any technical difficulties, I had some, and so I called, and they said they were having a few technical, so if you were trying to click on it and it wasn't working, which is what happened to me, they got me set up. And so just call, and you have to give them your email and some information, and they'll get you set up.
One nice thing about it is doing it virtually. It was Saturday, and Saturday was such a beautiful day that I thought, no, I'm not going to sit in front of a computer. So I did mine Sunday afternoon. So. Okay, Moving on to superintendent's report. Rob?
Thank you. Yeah, you have my written report. I'll just go through it briefly. So the health and safety plan, the only update that I have there is we've had, for the last couple of months, every Monday, we've been doing serial testing. We've talked about that. And now what we've seen as more staff have become vaccinated, the interest in that serial testing has declined pretty significantly, as you could imagine. And so we're getting somewhere between 0 and 5 staff at a time, and that generally includes those that are testing, conducting the testing. We won't continue to do the serial testing just based on the numbers, although we will keep a stock of those tests on hand, so we're able to offer them if it's necessary. There's times that we do internships, for example, with some of our students. We might provide a test so they can do an internship at an organization. So we want to make sure that we have those tests still on hand, and the people that have been trained to do that are still willing to do that. It's just the necessity of the serial testing itself with those numbers doesn't justify any longer. The COVID impact tables, I shared that from last week, as I have done historically, and our positives are up even from this number again, and so we're around 10 as of right now. And we're actually, I think I referenced this in the past, at our last meeting, we're probably, or we are at the highest COVID impact numbers since early to mid-December right now, actually, with the impact in school. And so that's something that we're still continuing to monitor, as we do multiple times every week, really every day. Personnel recommendations on the next page, I've shared those as I have, and I don't know how I keep screwing this one up, but I fixed one. You notice that one was missing, and so I fixed that, and I somehow took off Ms. Rios's link there, but it is listed on the agenda correctly. But Evelyn Rios is the staff member that we're recommending for hire that's missing there. But we just continue to provide that little bit of bio. We know how the position as board members that you're asked to approve those contracts, and we want to make sure that you know a little bit of those people, although you don't get a chance to interview them directly. I put in my report an Esser update. I'm really looking for the first meeting in May to have an Esser budget. I think it's important that we get moving in that area and have at least a draft or a first draft of that budget. We know that things change, especially in this area, but we're still waiting on release of those funds from the state level. They haven't been released yet. We're still semi-patiently waiting for that to occur. But the initial budget that we're starting to build has a couple different areas, 6 different areas that I've started budgeting with so far, and that's continuation of the additional EL staff, English learner staff that we started during the pandemic. We have a pretty significant increase in our EL students than we had even 8 years ago when I came. When we came 8 years ago, it was probably 16 to 18 students, and now those numbers are in the 60s. So pretty significant differences. And when I came 8 years ago, we were talking students mostly in levels 3 through 5, which are the lowest impact areas or the lowest support areas. And now the majority of our numbers are 1 through 3. Those are the highest numbers, those students that need the highest impacts. And they are across K through 12. And so we have to have staff to effectively support our students and our teachers for EL students. So continuation of that. We do have a proposal that we're contemplating now that would add a secondary counseling staff member that would address SEL at the secondary level, so the middle school and the high school. As you remember, we tried to be as efficient as possible with our counseling staff, and we asked for some of our elementary staff to do some portfolio assignments up at the high school, and that's worked, but it's not ideal. And so utilizing Esser dollars to provide that counseling support at the secondary level would also free up support at the elementary level as well. And so we think that's certainly a worthwhile use of those Esser dollars. We've talked before about CTE expansion for aviation, maybe additional CTE opportunities to expand other programs, things like culinary arts. We just did a tour of the transition house, and you saw or heard about phase 2, and maybe there's some opportunities there as well whether it's through Esser, whether it's through some other Carl Perkins dollars that come. That's an area that we want to think about as well, especially when it's a program or a space that could serve multiple uses, not just those students in the transition house, but the proximity to CTE could also be a benefit for a lot, and the high school can be a benefit to a lot of different programs. So we like that efficiency. A staff development initiative, we've talked about this before. How can we engage our staff in conducting professional learning opportunities that support the work of the district and the strategic plan? And so I've been working with stakeholders for the last couple of weeks trying to work through a concept so we can provide those opportunities for staff. And so I'm not ready to announce that as part of a budget, but we are certainly working on it and getting a lot of great feedback from staff. And so the feedback we've gotten so far has been very positive. Additional resources to support student engagement, behavioral needs, and then, as we've talked about many times, the capital projects plan and the facility needs that we have and our ability to use Esser in those areas, in those areas as well. Moving into our facility committee, at our last meeting we talked about, or you had asked, directed me to move forward with creating a task force to study elementary enrollment and facility needs at the elementary level. So my initial concept is to work probably sometime in the summer and work to get a task force that includes 2 central office staff, our 3 facility committee members, and then representatives from multi-section and single-section buildings. So a teacher, parent, administrator from those levels to make sure we have representation at that committee as well. So again, I think looking at July, August, and we'll continue on to the school year if necessary. And I can see that being a committee that meets into the school year. We will have to meet in July and August, and I'm sure we'll build a lot of capacity at those meetings, but I think that's going to be a conversation that's going to need to continue beyond just the summer. The High School Innovation Task Force, in the past, we brought a plan. Mr. Gaylor presented on a plan. So initially, the conversations we had with the Department of Public Instruction and following their guidelines was that no board action was necessary until the plan was actually complete, and that timeline was November. We just had a planning meeting with the department last week, I think, if memory serves, and they actually wanted board approval on the plan when it's completed, but also the proposal to move forward. So later on in the agenda, we'll ask you with my recommendation to approve a plan to continue the planning that we've already talked about, but it needs to have formal board approval. I shared in my report graduation planning, so we are continuing. We'll work exactly with what the capacity opportunities are and what those guidelines are, and that's what we'll continue to work with. Right now, that's at 70%, 75% of capacity in the Civic Center, so I think we'll have a lot of space, and I don't foresee the challenges, and fingers are crossed, and I'm knocking on wood, that we saw in the at this time last year. But there still are limitations that we have to work through, so we will do our very best. You're typically at this time getting information about transition house graduation. We don't have any students that are eligible for graduation this year, and so we won't have one. But we still will have GED graduation. That's May 18th at 7 at the Career Tech Center. As we've talked in the past of the various collaborations, we've been talking a lot about the University of Jamestown because that's where a lot of our energy has been focused around in recent months, but we've also been working with the Ann Carlson Center. A lot of opportunities for us to collaborate there as well. We want to be as efficient as we can. We want to work with community partners the best that we can, and they've got exciting things happening at the Ann Carlson Center too, working on a new facility there. And so we've engaged in those conversations. We brought I met privately with them, and we brought a team over to talk about potential collaborations, and we're going to continue those discussions as well. So we're very thankful for that partnership with Ann Carlson, and we continue to look forward to whatever that might bring us. And it might be nothing, and it might be great collaborations, but having the conversations are very important. And then I included the legislative updates and all those things. Stand for questions on any of that or any of my report.
Melissa?
Going back to the high school graduation, I know last year that there was a photographer that was there that took a picture of each graduate, and I had a lot of really good
Yeah.
feedback from parents last year. Is that going to be
Yeah, we talked,
something?
sorry. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say.
great
that-
question. We saw that same benefit, and I remember having a conversation right after the ceremony. And I was a parent of a graduate, and how nice that was. And, you know, that's something that we thought about continuing to commit to regardless of the pandemic, and just
Right.
making an opportunity available.
Okay.
Any other question? Jason?
The Senate bill, which one is it? On the July 1st deadline.
Yes.
Will that take effect this July 1st and then will not be applicable until 2022, or would that affect this year's negotiations?
So great question. So originally, in the original Senate bill, it included an emergency clause, which would have made it enforceable as soon as the bill was signed by the governor. That has to reach a certain percentage to pass. And that did not pass the Senate with that necessary ratio to pass the emergency clause. So the bill passed, the emergency clause fails. And it went over to the House, it was never amended back, they didn't, they just passed it. So the long-winded answer to your question is not this cycle. It would only go into effect for next cycle.
Okay, and then, back to our personnel, recommendations.
Yes.
And I'm just bringing this up because I've been hearing some concerns about, I just want to make sure that our process is transparent, and I want to make sure that, and I'll be blunt, I've been hearing concerns about in-house staff who may have some interest in advancing in the district. And I'm not saying being denied opportunities, but I'm just saying, I want us to make sure that we're, part of my vision as a culture of anything is that we want our people to grow from within, and if they've been loyal employees of Jamestown Public Schools, I'd like to make sure that they're getting fair shots at some advancements, careers, and I'll just put it out there that I hate to see those kinds of teachers leaving, if they do, for that reason, and I'm just bringing that up, and I know we can't be a part of that process, that's not what I'm saying. And then the last thing is, I know, I would just like us to, at some point, as a board, consider, as we build that Esser budget, some sort of one-time gift, bonus, whatever you want to call it, to every JPS employee. I know that's probably not in what we're thinking now, and I'm not saying an amount or anything. I just think we've heard Dr. Leck say several times that we're going to be able to do a lot of things with this money because it's something we won't ever see again. And I agree that it's something we probably won't see in our lifetime, so I would like to see us consider some amount of that money to go to every JPS employee. And I know we're gonna come up with the professional development plan that they can earn it, but I want us to consider the fact, and I think we all would agree that they have earned it. And I'm not saying we need to discuss that here tonight, but if that's part of our budget for that, I would be appreciative if we would consider it. And if the board decides to do whatever, that's fine too. That's just my comment there.
Okay. Diane?
I would address the question of the personnel.
Okay.
We have, in almost any position, we have internal applicants and external applicants. Teams of people generally get together at every level, and they make a determination on the best candidates. And those people become finalists, and the finalists are evaluated and interviewed, and we make the best selection. We think the students deserve the best teachers, and sometimes those are internal candidates, and sometimes they're external candidates. But we want to make sure that we hire the best people. That's one of the most important things that we do, is hire staff.
Right.
And when we make a selection and a recommendation that comes before the board, that person is vetted to be the best candidate. And like I said, sometimes those are internal candidates and sometimes they're external candidates, but they are vetted and the best candidate.
Okay, thank you.
Diane, then,
Yes, I just wanted to throw out a positive comment about this idea of a catalog of professional development options followed by a stipend. I love the idea. I think it's going to be very popular, and I think it's going to be very effective. And I just wanted to comment on it, that I appreciate probably Dr. Leck coming up with something like that. And thank you.
Heidi?
Just the way we hire, I think, has had a lot of discussion over the years that I've been on board, and I want to make sure that we are transparent and that we follow our processes. Dr. Leck, have you or any of the principals heard concerns that have been brought to you about our hiring processes?
No, not directly.
Okay. And then I think there was some discussion at the communication committee about different ways to, help, certainly all JPS staff at every level, has had, extra work this year. And and it wasn't directly related to, every employee, but there was some indirect discussion. And then we also have to remember that bonuses and different things like that are taxed differently. There's different requirements for those kinds of things too. So I think we want to be really cautious heading down some of those roads. Not that I don't think it's deserved, I just wanted to comment on that as well.
Gail?
I have a question. So am I to assume when we look at those close contact, that we would have had more students who were out if we had rescinded that mask mandate? We would have had 34 more students that would have had to quarantine?
So,
Or,
the simple answer to that is yes. I mean, some of the numbers were before and some were after. I mean,
So
so I'm talking, when I give you that answer of yes, that's assuming that
but they were
all of
exempt
those
because-
happened after,
Yeah.
right? But the idea is, yes, a positive is an isolation. And then quarantine recommendations come, we follow the Department of Health
So they were exempted from wearing
recommendations.
masks.
But quarantine means that, there was an incident of exposure. One of the students or both of the students were not wearing masks or wearing them properly. When we go through an investigatory process and that's determined. As a general rule, we see congregate areas as the largest examples of when that unmasked exposure takes place. And so you typically could see one positive relate to 4 quarantines because of lunch recommendations, and then exemptions. Boy, it really depends on, that can be anywhere from 4 to 10. And I think I saw one from today that was, I think, 15. It again just depends on the student and the circumstance. So that varies. But without the ability to provide an exempt close contact is predicated on wearing masks, wearing them properly. So that's the impact that would have. And again, these are Department of Health recommendations. The health and safety plan of the district says that we're going to follow those guidelines and those recommendations. But yeah, to answer your question, that's what that would look like.
Okay.
Aaron?
Just in total absenteeism though, are you seeing any other, just general, anything out of the ordinary as far as that goes?
I don't think so. You mean compared to this?
Yeah, so this is, you're basically for the
You
students.
mean outside of this, are we seeing a greater level of attendance issues?
Yeah.
Not that I've seen, and not that's been reported to me. I don't check the daily attendance rate the same way that we check right now every morning. I look at our COVID impact spreadsheets, and we need to track where students are at. So every day I look at that, and so I spend a lot more time there. But I haven't noticed, nor has it been reported, that there's significantly different absentee rates.
Diane?
comparatively.
If anything, I was going to guess that they were better because statistically around the world, the mask wearing is producing less influenzas, flus, colds.
Yeah,
And-
that's a great point. I can't speak to that with any level other than anecdotal,
Right,
but it certainly seems that way.
right.
It seems that we're seeing less of that type of communicable disease, for whatever reason. That could be distancing, that could be I have no idea what
Right.
you know, I'll let health
It's a
officials
positive
take
thought
that.
to hold in our minds, though.
I guess that,
Aaron, you have another?
yeah, I just wanted to, I think a lot of people are, they're a lot more aware of being sick and going out.
Yeah,
And so,
True.
If you're sick, you stay
Sure.
home.
true.
Yeah, it could easily be.
Because I've looked at these numbers here and, the flu season that we've had before the whole COVID thing, absenteeism was well over 15% in our school districts. And so, we're not even coming close to those numbers now.
Mhm.
I just remember that time frame, and there's a lot of kids out before COVID hit. And, staying home when you're sick is a key point.
Mhm.
Always.
Hey, any other questions for Rob on his report, or Greg?
I just have one, just kind of on that topic. Obviously, it's kind of a hot button with certain people, and you're always gonna hear from both sides of the story regarding masks and that type of thing. And with the numbers that you're showing, are you able to specifically track what would happen if the masks were not there? Is that something you're looking at going forward so that we would at least have some science evidence that we could look back on and say, if these all were not in place, here's what it would look like for
So
students?
that's a great question. So if you look back at the report that I provided last meeting,
Yeah.
and I just picked the middle of the month. It's a little snapshot around the 15th of every month. And if you look at those and take those exempt and make them quarantine, that's essentially what you could look at. And we're actually seeing we're no different. As I was explaining before, we're actually seeing a little bit of a surge in school. It isn't anywhere close to October, at the end of October and November, and those were really significant impacts. But this is the highest that we've seen. This current spike is the highest that we've seen since December in school. We have the highest number of positives right now. It's at 10 between staff and students than we've seen since December. And again, the quarantine and exempt, it's an easy way to look at, and we do post those all online in our alert center, so people can track those. I do it every Friday. I track them. Well, I log them 3 times a week, but I look at them and update every day. But we report on them every Friday, and you could transition exempt to quarantines and see what what those isolations would be, isolation quarantines would be. We would have simply positives, quarantines, and household contacts on that list. Just move the exempts to quarantine, close contact quarantine.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I
Any
would
oth-
just add,
Gail?
I'd be interested in exploring Jason's idea of maybe a one-time bonus to thinking of all the work our administrators and staff and janitors and everyone in the district has done. I think that would be worth exploring, and I have seen that, that's bad grammar, sorry. I have noticed other school districts have done that. So, I know of several that have in the state, so I'd be interested in exploring that in the future. Thank you.
Heidi?
Dr. Love, do we know anything more about the funding for the next 2 years for schools? And just mark this out.
So 1388 is the bill that carries the foundation aid, and that is currently in conference committee. Actually, I think they meet tomorrow in conference committee. The Senate amended 1%, 1% back. I think it's extremely likely, as I have said before, that it'll finalize on that. That bill's been hog-housed, as I talked about before, which means a lot of stuff gets pushed into it. And so there's things from school counseling, bills that get pushed in there, and the requirements and different studies. You have literacy requirements for elementary is pushed into 1380. I think it's 30-some pages now. But yeah, I anticipate getting something moving on 1388. But I will say, it is always one of the last 3 bills. And because it's sitting, where it's sitting, it will be one of the last 3, because it's usually held held hostage is maybe, not the right term, but you get my point. It's usually the last one for a reason, because it's a big dollar. Department of Human Services and schools.
Okay, no other question, any old business? No old business, we'll move into new business. We have nothing under activity or building and grounds. Curriculum and assessment, is there a motion for the approval of the innovative educational program planning proposal? Motion by Bob, seconded by Gail. Any discussion? Gail?
I don't know if you are looking for people to serve on that committee, but that would be one I'd be interested in and feel I have some kind of skill set I can bring to it.
Sure.
So just, I'll throw
I'll
that out
pass it
there.
along. I'm sure he heard.
Okay. Any other discussion?
The
Aaron?
next steps in that, was there a milestone in April here?
Yeah, coming up, and everything that's for the proposal itself, do you mean, or just the planning steps?
Our feedback from DPI on April 12th, and they're waiting for this, so then we can move forward with the process. So we're probably 3 weeks behind where we like to be.
Okay.
Yeah, this is what's required, and that's what I was mentioning in my report, that originally we didn't think we needed their approval until the plan was there, and now they're saying they would like that. Although we did have that feedback session there, very happy with the proposal as it's written, it's just procedural.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Oh, you're talking portrait of a graduate, that's what you're
Yeah,
talking
that was April 2021, yeah.
No other, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving into finance, is there a motion for the approval of the purchase agreement with the Educational Broadband Service License with Clearwire Spectrum Holding 3 LLC in the amount of $14,000?
So moved.
Aaron? Seconded by Greg. Any discussion? Hearing none, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving to letter B, is there a motion for the approval of the school nursing services with Central Valley Health in the amount of $25,000 for the 21-22 school year? Motion by Gail, seconded by Melissa. Rob?
Just a comment, the same services that we've received in the past, and there's no increase this year.
Any other discussion? Gail?
I would just like to shout out to the people of Central Valley Health and all the services they provided and helped this year for the community and especially the school. You know, being the daughter of the school nurse, I feel it's very important to give them a big shout out. They're very vital to schools.
Absolutely. Any other discussion? Hearing none, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving into the budget revision. Sally, you have comments on that, or?
Never-ending flow of budget. This is a smaller one, it just, Heidi Vidot filed for, an Esser preschool grant, and so when you do those types of things months ago, plans change, and so it just, again, matches what we're actually doing. It was more, feasible for them to buy supplies rather than license, and like every federal program, the budget has to match how we're spending it. And the striving readers, when we put the program in or put the budget in last summer, some things changed. So again, matching those budget revisions to what's actually happening. More supplies purchased. If you have any further questions, I can certainly answer them, but the detail is there and then the summary. So there's actually no increase or decrease to the budget. It's just matching the line items according to what we're actually spending.
Motion to approve the budget revision?
So moved.
Motion by Greg,
Second.
second by Aaron. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving to the general fund balance, that's there for your information. If you do have questions, you can let Sally know. And moving to the monthly financial reports, motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Bob, seconded by Gail. Any discussion? Hearing none, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving to personnel, is there a motion for the approval of the 21 summer school staff? Motion by Melissa, seconded by Bob.
Okay,
I thought you raised your hand. What was it?
I will.
Okay. I saw it go, something move over there. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving to letter B, is there a motion for the approval of the hire of Evelyn Rio for 8th grade English teacher at the middle school, BA/BS, salary of $45,789.50 upon successful background check for the 21-22 school year, salary to be adjusted upon completion of negotiations.
So moved.
Motion by Gail,
Second.
seconded by Jason. Any discussion? Hearing none, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving to letter C, is there a motion to approve the hire of Amanda Arve as English teacher at the high school, the BA/BS salary of $44,317 upon successful completion of background check for the 21-22 school year, salary to be adjusted upon completion of the negotiations. Motion by Melissa,
Second.
seconded by Greg. Any discussion? Hearing none, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving to letter D, is there a motion to approve the hire of Veronica Askew for social studies teacher at the high school, BA/BS, salary of $44,317 upon successful background check for the 21-22 school year, salary to be adjusted upon completion of negotiations. Motion by Heidi, seconded by Melissa. Any discussion? Hearing none, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Yes. Motion carries. Moving, there's nothing under policy and procedures, tuition, other items for future agenda. Let myself know, meetings to be scheduled. We have the JEA negotiation meeting on Wednesday, April 21st at 2020, 5:30 in the Thompson Community Room in the middle school. Health Insurance Committee on Monday, April 26th, 3:30 in the multipurpose room in the middle school. We have administrators negotiation meeting on Wednesday, April 28th at 4:30 in the district conference room. We got the JEA negotiations meeting on Thursday, April 29th at 5:30 in the Thompson Community Room in the middle school. Our next school board meeting is May 3rd, 5:15 in the Thompson Community Room in the middle school. And then on May 17th, another school board meeting, 5:15 in the Thompson Community Room in the middle school. Moving to Roman numeral 9, is there a motion to move into executive session to discuss administrators' negotiation? Bob?
I, Bob Toso, believe that discussion with our negotiators and developing a strategy relative to the school board's position in this matter in open session would have an adverse fiscal effect on negotiations position of the board. Therefore, I move that the board enter into executive session and that the following members and negotiators be identified as being present. School board members Greg Allen, Diane Hansen, Melissa Gleason, Roger Hout, Heidi Larson, Gail Nelson, Aaron Roberts, Jason Rohr, and Robert Toso, Superintendent Robert Leck, and business manager Sally Oates. That the date and time are April 19th at 6:45, and that only the following topic will be considered in executive session: administrative negotiation strategies. That the legal authority for the executive session is section 44-04-19.1 of the North Dakota Century Code. That the executive session be recorded.
Second.
Seconded by Greg. Any discussion? Jason?
Just a minor thing here, and I know Mr. Toso verbally announced it, but the executive session thing here just says negotiation strategies in the document. I don't know if that's a big deal or not, but just to clarify, this executive session will be administrators only.
Correct, what he said, yeah.
The updated version should say JPS administrators and
Okay.
and JEA negotiating unit as item 11.
Okay.
So I don't
Sorry.
know if maybe it just needs to be updated.
Thank you.
Is there a second? Seconded by Greg. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll, after our executive session, we'll return back here, and we're meeting in room 104? 104.